Tonight on Reporting Scotland. Documents leaked to the BBC show attempts to suppress a report which contains claims of serious corruption and criticism of Police Scotland's leadership.
I am shocked that the Chief Constable's office should see fit to try to pretty much obliterate any kind of criticism whatsoever.
Also on the programme. The chairman of the inquiry into the £17 million DG1 leisure centre in Dumfries says he's never seen so many failings in a single project. Shops throughout Scotland adjust alcohol prices before minimum unit pricing takes effect tomorrow. A father from Mull who saved his son's life using CPR is urging others to learn life-saving resuscitation skills. And Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers criticises the treatment of his Rangers counterpart Graham Murty. Good evening. Secret police documents leaked to the BBC show attempts were made to suppress a report which contained allegations of serious corruption within Police Scotland and criticism of the force's leadership. The papers reveal some officers had been threatening and intimidating witnesses, as well as carrying out unauthorised surveillance. Others reported feeling under pressure to charge suspects without enough evidence in order to meet targets. This exclusive report from Samantha Poling.
It's been 5 years since Scotland's 8 legacy forces were merged into one national force. Since then, Police Scotland has stumbled from crisis to crisis, with 3 chief constables in as many years. Now new documents leaked to the BBC bring further revelations from within the force. Details from this Police Scotland memo have never been made public.
Unauthorised surveillance, threats and intimidation of witnesses, unlawful, spurious detentions of suspects, unauthorised searches. The list just goes on.
It formed part of a review commissioned by the former Chief Constable Sir Stephen House in 2014. It followed concerns over bad practice and corruption in some legacy forces. 4 previous versions of the report have been leaked to me. 334 officers and staff in all were spoken to for the first version.
Officers on the beat are almost bullied into producing returns to satisfy management. Questionable methods, such as the recategorisation of crime to meet targets. In some instances, officers felt pressure to charge a person even when there's not enough evidence in order to meet targets.
Yet none of these quotes appear in what became the final version of the report. An entire section describing a culture of fear within the ranks is also gone.
I look at this and I am so disappointed. I understand things go through a process. I would never have envisaged asking people their views and then misrepresenting them.
This is Sir Stephen House's handwriting and a member of his staff's.
The title page is Expressions of Fear and Anxiety. But that's been scored out because they don't want that. They want it to now be called Culture and Communications. And if I look in the final report, it's Culture and Communications. The word fear has gone completely.
Another striking feature of the leaked reports is the attempts from the very top to rewrite problems into the past tense. This email from Sir Stephen House's office demands a single word is changed from remains to existed and states there's a danger that he will suppress this unless amended.
Do you notice the tense changes? And this is a common theme.
How interesting. I am shocked that the Chief Constable's office should see fit to try to pretty much obliterate any kind of criticism whatsoever, because if this is what the report found, then this is what it found and this is what should have been published.
Sir Stephen House, who is now with the Metropolitan Police, declined to comment. Police Scotland said significant changes had been made since the report, including a wellbeing strategy for officers, which had also recently been launched. Samantha Poling, Reporting Scotland.
And you can see Sam Polling's investigation, A Force in Crisis, on BBC One Scotland later tonight at 8:30. A Labour MSP has called for a criminal investigation into the construction of a leisure complex in Dumfries. The DG1 Centre was completed in 2008 at a cost of £17 million, but was forced to close 6 years later because of major structural problems. The repair bill is expected to be £19 million. Well, today, the author of a report into what happened said he'd never seen so many failings in one building. From Dumfries, Gillian Sharp reports.
It was opened to the public in 2008 and hailed as a financial success at the time. But very quickly, major problems with DG1 were discovered. 10 years on, the centre is closed, shrouded in scaffolding, as millions of pounds of remedial work continues, with the hope it can be back up and running next year. For a time, its swimming pools were used in competitions like this one in 2013. But now the water's gone as engineers get to grips with what went wrong with the construction. Today, Dumfries and Galloway Council has been hearing the independent report into what happened, detailing defects from the subfloor up, failings from both the original contractor, Kier Construction, and in the council's oversight. Professor John Cole said everything that could go wrong with a building had done.
I've seen examples of the failings in DG1 in many buildings, but not the collective of all of those failings in a single building. It is quite a unique experience in terms of finding this extent of failings in one particular building.
The council agreed a £9.5 million compensation settlement with the original contractor. Reasonable at the time, said the report, but previously undiagnosed flaws have seen that bill rocket. The council leader says the report doesn't make pleasant reading for anyone involved.
The council as a corporate body will apologise for the mistakes the council made. But my view is that it is for the contractor to apologise, because the contractor is ultimately responsible for the defects in that building, and the fact that they passed on to the public sector, to Dumfries and Galloway Council, a building which could have killed people.
In the town, there's real unhappiness about what's gone on.
I think they would have been better off demolishing it and starting again, the amount they've spent on it.
I just think it's awful that they spent all that money, all them resources for what? For it to sit shut for how many years now?
This building behind me was supposed to be a regional centre of excellence, a resource for the town. Instead, the council's been left counting the cost and looking to learn lessons. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland, Dumfries.
The consequences of Scotland's troubled relationship with alcohol are stark. Last year, more than 1,100 people died of alcohol-related causes, and there were more than 36,000 hospital admissions. In its first year alone, ministers say 58 lives will be saved through minimum pricing, with 1,300 fewer hospital admissions. Well, tomorrow, Scotland becomes the first country in the world to introduce a minimum unit price for alcohol at a national level. And our social affairs correspondent, Reeve Alderson, has been looking at what it'll mean.
The one that's going to take the biggest impact is Frosty Jack. Now, we have that on promotion just now at £4, and that will be rising to £11.30 under the new minimum unit price.
Shops throughout Scotland are having to adjust alcohol prices from tonight. Apart from cheap, strong ciders, some budget spirits also see a significant hike under minimum unit pricing. Abdul's concerned about an increase in shoplifting, as he says drinkers aren't aware of what's coming.
I'm expecting a lot of people to be angry, in shock. As much as we have tried to tell the customers that this is coming, it seems to be going over their head just now. They're not taking it in.
I used to get up and he'd be sitting and have a pint glass, which looked like water, and it turned out that it was vodka.
Veronica's husband died of alcohol-related causes, and her son, who's now sober, became frighteningly violent through drink.
He was having a bit of a psychotic episode and thought that was all sorts of people trying to get him. And I was, "It's not, you're all right. But he didn't know who I was. And I was down on the ground and he was punching my head. And I was shouting, "Gary, it's Mum," because he didn't know it was me.
Addiction researchers suggest Canadians, especially young Canadians, are drinking too much because drinks are too cheap.
In Canada, TV News reported similar measures attempted in some states met consumer resistance.
I don't see how that's, stopping anybody from drinking just because the price is raised, I'll
just start brewing my own.
At the weekend, particularly in the hours after midnight, where we'll see huge numbers of patients presenting as a direct result of alcohol. Probably more than half the patients that are coming through at that time are under the influence of alcohol.
Doctors say this measure is no silver bullet, but say limited experiments in places like Canada show price controls can tackle alcohol-related harm.
We saw a 10% increase in the price of alcohol was associated with an 8% decrease in consumption of alcohol. And that was also associated with a 9% reduction in alcohol-related admissions to hospital. So I don't think we'll see anything straight away, but over time I'd like to think we'll see some improvement, albeit a small one.
I had a choice between my wife and 2 kids or alcohol. I chose alcohol.
Brian has been sober for 20 years and now helps others in recovery at a clinic in Lanarkshire. He thinks minimum unit pricing is just a start.
People who are responsible don't blow all their money in alcohol. It's only the people at the very tip end, where I was, that it wouldn't have made a bit of difference.
Other countries are watching Scotland with minimum prices planned in Ireland, Wales and Northern Australia. Rachel Alderson reporting Scotland.
Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Christine Goodall, an oral surgeon who's also the Director of Medics Against Violence. Dr. Goodall, thank you for coming in. Revel's report there touched on some of the destructive effects of alcohol abuse, but you in your working life every day seeing the physical effects.
Yes, unfortunately in our area of work we're seeing a lot of people coming in with facial injuries. So they may be broken jaws, broken cheekbones, people who've been slashed across the face. And although that's gone down an awful lot in the last few years, it's still something that's occurring on a daily basis. And on the other side of things, we're unfortunately seeing people who are coming in who are affected by oral cancer. And both of those conditions really are things that are alcohol related.
But minimum unit pricing can only be part of a solution. How much difference is it really going to make?
Well, our hope is that it will significantly reduce harm for people who are most at risk of harm from alcohol. And those are people who are drinking large volumes of the very cheap alcohols that you heard about in the report.
Young people, presumably.
And young people as well. So I guess it's very tempting for young people to think, yeah, you know, they'll buy a huge bottle of white cider and drink that all in one go, you know, and those people as well will be targeted by this policy.
Well, we saw in Revel's film again that experiment in Canada appeared to have some success. But what are other countries doing around the world to try and tackle the problem of alcohol abuse?
Well, if you look around the world, there are various things that they do to restrict the sales of alcohol. So we have a definite over-provision of alcohol outlets in Scotland. We have far too many places that you can buy alcohol easily. So supermarkets, a lot of off sales. In other countries, they restrict that quite a lot, and I think that probably also has an effect.
So you'd like to see a package of other measures, and you're saying make it less readily available?
Absolutely. I think that will help hugely.
Dr. Goodall, thank you very much indeed for coming in. A father who saved his son's life using CPR is urging others to learn first aid. Alex Brown, who lives on the Isle of Mull, took part in a workshop in Oban in January, little thinking that his new skills would be put to use when his son Rory stopped breathing. Ian McInnes has more.
Little Rory is now back to his smiley self after every parent's worst nightmare. Your child stops breathing, their lips turn blue.
And we thought he was choking, so we pulled him out of his high chair and I was starting to hit his back, but still he wasn't breathing and nothing was coming up. Then we lay him on the floor and I tried to use my fingers to try and scoop something out of his throat, but I couldn't feel anything there. And that's when he started going blue, so that's when we had to give him the CPR.
2 fingers in the middle of the chest.
But would you know what to do? Luckily for Rory, his dad had attended a first aid workshop just weeks before, learning these vital skills.
It was basically that. It was maybe half an hour where we got lots of questions from the group. It was a great big coming together of the community. It was everyone coming together to try and make sure that they knew what to do, and they did.
But it could have been so different for lifeboat man Alex and his family. It was a virus which was affecting little Rory. His dad is now urging others to get involved and to learn the skills that saved his son's life.
Having 2 young kids of our own, it will be a good thing to have. Just in case you ever need it. You would hope that you never needed it, but it's a good thing to have. I think it's something that should be looked at getting taught in schools as well, just to help people out, because no one ever knows when they might need it.
But if you do find yourself in that situation, the fear factor can sometimes get in the way, according to experts.
People think they're going to get it wrong. People think they're going to make it worse. You cannot get worse than not breathing. You cannot make this situation any worse. Standing back and doing nothing is doing it wrong. Stepping in and doing something is doing it right. We show people in a really simple way how we can save people, and it's clearly working.
Rory has since made a full recovery, seen here playing with older brother Callum. The family, though, hope that their worst nightmare can spur others on to make a difference. Ian McInnes, reporting Scotland.
Sainsbury's and Asda have agreed to a £12 billion merger. The new combined supermarket will have a network of around 3,000 stores. They claim they'll lower prices by around 10% on popular products. So what does that mean for Scottish stores and indeed their suppliers? Our business and economy editor Douglas Fraser can tell us more. Douglas.
Well, Sally, yes, this is a huge merger. A third of a million people work for these two companies, and they say that the jobs, well, they ought to be secure if all of these stores are going to stay open as they say. It's a huge change also to the way that Britain does its shopping. What's driving all of this? Well, it seems to be about two brands going after perhaps different types of customer. Sainsbury's more towards the affluent type of customer, more towards the south of Britain, and Asda going for the more price conscious, those on a tighter household budget. Now, they say that all of these shops can stay open, but the regulator for the Competition and Markets Authority may have different ideas, particularly where in local areas these stores compete with one another. That's less likely to be a problem in Scotland, where the really big Sainsbury's supermarket stores are rather rarer. But there may be a requirement for some of these to be sold off to one of the competitor operators or for redevelopment. But the other driver of all of this is the negotiating power of a larger company, roughly the size of Tesco, in order to drive down costs and pass these on to customers to compete better. The supply chain, including food processors and farmers, know that that's very unwelcome. Dairy farmers in particular have experience of just how tough supermarkets can be when they come after them on price.
Our feed prices are rising, our labour prices are rising, everything's going up, but we have to get more from the marketplace. But this is another knock in the head where we won't get another rise, so we hope that it doesn't happen.
Now, much of this is about competition with Tesco, with Lidl and Aldi, which are taking more share, but also the online retailers who don't have all of these shop costs that these existing supermarkets have got. Amazon is one of those that's coming after them. It's already very good at household deliveries, and they're going to get into this groceries market with all sorts of different types of shopping model. That's where the real concern lies. That's what's driving this change.
Douglas, thanks for that. You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's 14 minutes to 7. A reminder of tonight's top story. Documents leaked to the BBC show attempts to suppress a report which contains claims of serious corruption and criticism of Police Scotland's leadership. And still to come, the former Commonwealth boxing champion preparing for his next big challenge. "17 people remain in hospital following a bus crash in Glasgow, 3 of them in a serious but stable condition. Police are investigating what caused the single-decker to come off the road near the Clyde Tunnel shortly after 7 o'clock last night. 29 people were taken to hospital with a range of injuries. 12 were released following treatment. Officers are asking anyone who saw the crash to contact them. The Scottish Government is to invest almost £7 million on training nurses as part of a new workforce plan. The Health Secretary, Shona Robson, said £6.9 million would be spent over the next 3 years for education and training of GP practice and district nurses. The government says it's part of its commitment to treating more people in the community and keeping them out of hospital. Now, football, and Celtic fans are celebrating after the club sealed their 7th successive league title, beating Rangers 5-0 in front of a home crowd. But today, instead of basking in the glory, the Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has strongly criticised the treatment meted out to his Rangers counterpart Graham Murty. Rodgers feels Murty has been thrown to the garbage. Alistair Lamont has more.
Behind the scenes, Rangers are working to bring in Steven Gerrard as their new manager.
He's the man they want to bring back the good times to Ibrox. The current manager, Graham Murty, hasn't been able to do that, but today he had support from an unlikely source. A brief word of consolation from Brendan Rodgers at full-time yesterday. Job done once again for the Celtic manager. But as the fans partied, Rodgers was gracious in victory, and today he had this to say about Graham Murty. Because of a couple of defeats, and it hasn't quite worked out, he's just been thrown to the garbage really, and I think it's very, very discourteous. Rodgers went on, he's done his very best in what looks like, from the outside, to be very trying and difficult circumstances. Neither Murty nor his players spoke to the media following yesterday's humbling or since, leaving supporters looking for answers.
I think, in particular, a lot of people would have wanted to know Murty's reaction, because his interview before the game was pretty appalling. To come out and basically take no responsibility.
The board should come out and give some transparency on what's actually happening at Ibrox just now, especially with the season books that have to be renewed by the 14th of May.
There is no doubt Rangers are a massive club. They are an attractive proposition if things were done properly. But at the moment they're not, and there's big questions, big concerns about how you're going to get Rangers to compete at the top end of the game here in Scotland.
Rangers hope Steven Gerrard will agree this week to take on that challenge. But stopping more title celebrations across the city is quite a task for any manager. Alistair Lamont reporting Scotland.
One of Scotland's top boxers says he's determined to turn a dream into reality in his next fight. Former Commonwealth champion Josh Taylor is on the brink of a world title fight, but he admits he'll have to overcome what he calls his first proper test in the upcoming encounter with Ukraine's Viktor Postol. He spoke to our reporter, Jane Lewis.
Right. Some time back home, although perhaps Manu the pet dog was already sensing the visit was coming to an end. Right, drop it. Taylor is now based in England, but values quick trips home to East Lothian.
London is a very hectic place, you know, it's just 100 miles an hour, 24/7. So yeah, I get to come home every second weekend, so just to catch up with my family, take the dog a walk and just totally switch off and forget about things for a couple of days.
He's travelled the world. Heading for London once again, something his girlfriend of 8 years is fast becoming accustomed to.
I've always knew, had 100% he's always going to do it. I just think I never actually thought it was going to be so quick into his professional career. Everything's kind of went so fast.
Snowballed really quickly.
Yeah, when you first started, so it's been quite a quick journey, but it's good, and I've got every faith that he's going to smash it, so on to the next one now.
The next one takes place in 7 weeks in the Hydro against the experienced Ukrainian Viktor Postol.
Representing Scotland, Josh Taylor.
The venue, a happy hunting ground for Taylor, where he won Commonwealth gold during Glasgow 2014. A win there this time around, and a crack at a world title will follow.
It's so close now, I can practically taste it, so I mean, I've been training all my life for this sort of moment, this sort of year. It's so close to becoming a reality, so I've trained all my life for this, and there's absolutely no way that I'm going to let this opportunity slip.
Stay. So Taylor in training. The same can't be said for Manu. Jane Lewis, reporting Scotland.
A 4-month-old spaniel called Leo has become the winner of the Holyrood Dog of the Year competition. The puppy, who's owned by the Conservative MSP Maurice Golden, was one of 11 political pooches who were put under pressure and through their paces in the competition to become top dog. The contest is organised by the Kennel Club and the Dogs Trust to raise awareness of the issues affecting our four-legged friends. Some of Leo's competition rivals clearly have a bit of work to do on their humans. Well, the sun was certainly shining on those pooches and their owners in Holyrood Park today. Let's get the forecast now from Christopher. More sunshine tomorrow?
Yes, a little bit, but not quite the amount we had today. Beautiful day today, wasn't it, Sally? Thank you.
Hello there, good evening to you. Yes, plenty of sunshine right across the country, blue skies, and if we take a look at the satellite pitch, you can see really hardly anything in the sky at all. 14 degrees in Glasgow, the warmest part of the UK, a bit cooler around these North Sea coasts with the breeze off the sea, but dry and sunny nonetheless, and fantastic pictures coming in from our weather watchers. Tyree there, looking more like the Caribbean. Tonight, though, we pay the price because it stays dry and clear, and the temperature will readily fall away. A really chilly night. Temperatures down to freezing or lower, even in towns and cities, so there'll be a frost, and some rural parts of Aberdeenshire down to -5. So a cold start to the day tomorrow, and a bright one, a promising one, but unfortunately it will go downhill. You can see on the pressure sequence there, a weather front moving in off the Atlantic, bringing thickening cloud, outbreaks of rain and strengthening winds. So a chilly start, a sunny start for many, and through the course of the morning you can see that weather front towards the west coast in the Hebrides starting to push cloud and rain further east across western Scotland, certainly through the early afternoon. And if we take a look around 4 o'clock, you can see it's cloudy and wet at this point, quite windy as well from the south or southwest, gusts at times and exposure up to around 40 miles an hour. Now, the further east that you are tomorrow, likely to stay dry during daylight hours, and temperatures up a little bit for eastern Scotland compared with today. Certainly still sunny up towards the Murray coast, Banff and Buchan as well, and still probably dry, but cloud increasing for Orkney, sunshine though holding on for Shetland. Rest of the afternoon into the evening, and that weather front will continue to work its way eastwards, bringing outbreaks of rain with it as it moves across the country. It clears away, and that takes us to midweek, Wednesday. Well, sunshine and showers, really. Most of the showers will be in the west, but expect 1 or 2 further east. Winds lighter and coming in from the west. And then for the end of the week, Thursday and Friday, well, ridge of high pressure on Thursday, bringing largely dry conditions. But actually what you'll probably notice is that the temperatures start to rise, some warmer air pushing its way in. Good news for the weekend. But let's take a closer look at Thursday. A reasonably dry day, fairly cloudy at times, 1 or 2 light showers, and temperatures starting to creep up around about the low, maybe mid-teens. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you very much. Now a reminder of tonight's main news. The new Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, has said his most urgent task is to help the Windrush generation. The former Communities Secretary has taken over from Amber Rudd, who resigned late last night for misleading MPs about immigration removal targets. That's all from us for now. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Till then, have a very good evening.